Welcome to the Rees Legal Reese's Pieces bite-sized hints and tips on preparing for your studies. Okay, my name is Simon from Rees Legal, and today I'm going to chat with you about how you might give yourself the best chance of really getting your head around a new legal topic in time for the CILEx exams. Firstly, why should you listen to me? Well, at Rees Legal, we love helping people really understand the law, whether you're new to legal study, looking to get into a legal job, or you've started legal work and you're moving through your exams, or even if you're a bit more experienced, there are still some things we'll go through here which are really helpful in making the most of your studies. These sessions are geared primarily towards the CILEx course, but the general study principles can be applied equally well to almost all study topics which are assessed by examination. The main reason it's worth listening to us is that we've been through the CILEx system. Both Sarah and I studied and qualified through CILEx, starting study in the mid-90s and qualifying in the early 2000s. We understand what it's like trying to juggle a full-time job, real life, maybe a young family, social life and all the curveballs that life throws at you. We often reflect on wishing that we could have a word with our 25-year-ago selves to give some advice based on what we know now. So imagine the scene, 1990-something, and we're starting our CILEx journey, walking up the stairs of the local college for lesson 1, unsure what we've let ourselves in for. Is it the right thing? Will it be worth it? The pay for brand new, zero experience paralegals is pretty low. When will it get better? How will I remember all this stuff? I haven't studied for years. If only there was someone who could explain how to get the best from this whole thing. Flash forward to now, that's what we're trying to do here, just a bit of help and insight into how you might best prepare for the course that you've chosen. In this first session, I'll draw from our personal experiences as well as good educational practice and educational psychology to give you some ideas on how to maximise your potential. Remember, not everything will work well for everyone. Sometimes you need to adapt things to suit your circumstances, but I'll try to keep things as general as possible. Right, grab yourself a cup of something warm and let's get started. Okay, you're studying law. Doesn't that feel grown up? But before we start with the law, let's do some maths. Before you groan, remember this is designed to help us. Why maths, I hear you ask? Well, you need to know how much to study and there are a lot of variables. There's no point deciding to do 4 subjects at the exams in 4 months' time if you only have a few spare hours per week, so work out what you've got to play with. Say it's early February and the last exams have just finished. You've got approximately 4 months until the next exams. That feels like ages, doesn't it? You've got plenty of time, right? Well, yes, but don't make the mistake that we see all too often of getting the books and then thinking you've got a long time so you'll come back to it later. We often get contacted by people a few weeks before the exams asking us to go through the whole book with them. It's an impossible task, so you need to plan ahead. In early February, you've got 18 or 19 weeks before the exam. This is enough time if you use it properly. For level 3 topics, the books have between 6 and 9 chapters, sometimes a few more for civil lit, for example. For level 6, they have upwards of 12 chapters, up to 25 or more in the complex practice subjects. So, maths tells us how many chapters we need to go through each week. For example, level 3 Law of Tort has got 6 chapters, so you could read the manual 3 times over if you read 1 chapter per week. Level 3 Civil Litigation has got 19 chapters, so 1 chapter a week would do it, but maybe do 2 shorter ones a week a couple of times to give yourself some time to revise. Level 6 Law of Tort has got 13 chapters, so that tells us 1 chapter per week and there's still plenty of time to revise. But Level 6 Civil Litigation has got 27 chapters, so you need to do 1.5 chapters a week in order to cover that off, and that only gives you a week to revise at the end, so you do need to plan ahead. You can see from this that calculating how much time you have and how much work you have to do is a worthwhile exercise, so you can plan ahead when to do that work in the time available to you. This leads us on to your commitment to yourself. If you've taken the leap of faith in signing up to this rather lengthy and expensive journey, you owe it to your future self to give what's needed to the process now. Especially at level 6, as we've seen, a lot of commitment is needed. So here are some do's and don'ts that we would recommend. Firstly, commit to the process. Remind yourself of this weekly, ideally at the weekends, to set yourself up positively for the week ahead. Plan what you're going to study in that time and stick to that plan. Secondly, schedule in your time to study when you know you will not be interrupted. Use a calendar or a diary. Your smartphone is an excellent tool for that, and we carry them around with us most of the time. So schedule your time into your phone, set reminders, that way you won't forget. Finally, engage your family, your friends, or your employer to support you and agree these study periods. If you're on an apprenticeship pathway, your employer gives you some time each week to devote to your studies. Let your employer or your friends or family know when you're studying, get them to agree not to interrupt you during those times, agreeing when you'll finish and you can re-engage with them. Now let's look at some don'ts. Don't procrastinate when it's your allocated study time. Yes, the wallpaper in the spare room might need peeling off, but you can do that another time. This is time for study. Secondly, don't postpone your study because there's loads of time before the exam. As we've looked at, this is so common, but it can be so difficult to catch up on, especially if you've got a lot of chapters to get through. And finally, don't give up. You will look back on this in years to come and be really glad you stuck with it. You might even have a laugh about it. Trust us, we do speak from experience, but you can only do that if you stick with it now. So, let's have a look at some methods of study and some styles of learner. I regularly see various images and memes online saying that if students don't learn the way teachers teach, maybe the teachers need to teach how the students learn. And I think I agree with that sentiment. There are a number of different types of learner. Some of the main ones are auditory learners. These are people who learn best by listening. Then you've got visual learners. These are people who learn best by seeing things or reading things. And finally, we have kinesthetic learners. These are people who learn best by doing things, by experiencing or understanding practical, contextual examples. In our tutoring sessions, we always try to adapt the style best suited to the learner. But in reading a book, the book can't adapt itself. It is, by its nature, a visual tool, less suited to auditory or kinesthetic learners. Don't worry though, this doesn't mean that these learners will learn nothing from a book. There are still things that you can do to maximize your learning if you are a kinesthetic or an auditory learner. If you're an auditory learner, simple things like reading out loud can help so that your ears as well as your eyes receive the information. Or even better, you can read it out loud and record it using the voice note function on your smartphone, or you could buy a cheap dictaphone. That way, you can play it back to yourself through earphones anytime you like, or you can even try to learn it subliminally by playing it as you fall asleep. If you're a visual learner, reading and watching are well suited to your learning style, so minimal, if any, adaptations are probably needed. You're already getting a lot just from reading the manual. If you're a kinesthetic learner, focus on the practical examples in the book and think of your own examples of the topic in practice. Also, try explaining it to friends or family. Remember, we said to get them engaged. You never learn anything as well as you do when you're trying to teach it to somebody else. So, we can see here that even if your medium of study doesn't lend itself particularly well to your study style, there are still things you can do to change them and make them better and still get a good result. So, you've worked out your learning style, you've got the support of your friends or family or employer, and you're feeling super committed. Let's go. You start your first study session. How are you going to do things? Well, there are lots of ways that will work, and you'll find what works for you, but here are some quick fire hints and tips on what you could do or what you can avoid which might help. Do. Plan what you will study. Give yourself a goal or a time limit. Stick to the goal or the time limit and then finish when you reach it. Don't try and keep going if you're too tired. The human brain tends to be able to focus for about 15 to 20 minutes, so have a short comfort or refreshment break or at least change topics regularly. Do make sure your environment is comfortable. You've got enough light, the temperature is comfortable, and sitting comfortably. Working for long periods in any sort of discomfort means that you will focus more on the discomfort than you do on the study. Don't pull an all-nighter, especially just before an exam. Your brain is like a muscle, it works better when it's rested. Do make notes and refer back to these often, even if you just flick through them a week or two later. Your synapses will fire in recognition of these, and you will find recalling that information much easier. Don't have your phone or your tablet going off or playing videos in the background while you're trying to study. Low volume, relaxed music is okay if you like that, but not visual, nothing too distracting. Do have healthy brain food snacks available to you. Lean meats like chicken or turkey, nuts, grapes or sliced apple, even dark chocolate are all good to help you study. Don't beat yourself up if something goes wrong. Best laid plans sometimes need to adapt to real life. That's fine. Reschedule, regroup. It wasn't your fault. Just don't lose the momentum. And do reward yourself at the end of the session. If you've had a good study session, or even a mediocre one, it all came together because you made it happen. That is worth celebrating. Do something that you like to reward yourself, even if it's only something small. Well done. So, in summary, good study is a choice. It's an act of will. You will rarely, if ever, accidentally study well. You choose, plan, and carry out good study. It doesn't just happen. Choose. That you've got this far through the video means you're serious about study. Well done. You're making good life choices right there. That's half the battle won. Plan. Get allies, friends, family, colleagues, your boss. Get people who can help you and keep you accountable to yourself. Make time in your schedule and plan areas that are suitable for you to study. As I said, it won't happen accidentally or without you driving it. Commit. Choosing to study and planning to study are great starts, but unless you actually go ahead and carry out the task of study, they mean nothing. Be like Nike, just do it. Adapt. Work out your learning style. What works for some doesn't work for others. If you find something isn't going well, don't be afraid to change it up and try something that might suit your learning style better. And finally, adopt good practices. Once you've established your learning style and you realize what works for you, remember that and stick with it. Remind yourself of the do's and don'ts that we've looked at here. Some of them are essential and some are really helpful. So that's all for now. I hope that this has given you some useful, practical tips on how you could start your study journey. This is the first of 3 short videos on good study. The next one will look at revision techniques and the final one will look at exam techniques. If you like this or you found it useful, please hit like and follow or subscribe for more content. If not, let us know how we can improve things for the next one. If you want us to help you more directly, do feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help where we can. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.